Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. It's such a joy to have you here. And if you are new to the podcast, honestly, welcome. I'm so excited to have you in this community. Welcome to the community of Notes and Quotes, where we help you feel connected, seen, and informed. And we talk about life, things in your 20s, just experiences, maybe some serious topics like social justice and stuff, or maybe just some chill topics like the one we're going to talk about today, which actually can sometimes just not really be that chill, I guess, because it's about loneliness. And what a time to talk about loneliness. It's Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is Christmas Day at the time of filming, Christmas 2024. And guys, oh, there's just no time like Christmas. I mean, there really isn't. The music, the movies, the decorations, the vibes, the joy, the spirit of Christmas, the way that everyone just gets all kind of excited and the world just feels different. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But one of the things that I think is hard to ignore is the loneliness that can be felt at Christmas and the loneliness that you can feel throughout your entire life, especially in adulthood. And especially in early adulthood, when we're now coming out of not being that lonely when we were around, friends as kids, schoolmates, maybe siblings, family members, that kind of thing. But now you're in your early adulthood and you might be a bit more isolated in your life. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about loneliness, especially loneliness at the holidays, how to deal with and prioritize your mental health, and of course, just a bit of advice from me, unsolicited, unlicensed advice from someone who is not a therapist. Please, if you need to talk to a therapist, guys, I really encourage you to go do so. It is a wonderful thing that I think everyone should be doing, but I'm just here as your friend to talk a little bit about this with you and see if it helps you feel at all seen. So, before we jump into today's topic, I wanted to share the quote that made me want to really talk about this conversation. I mean, it's a topic that's been on my mind because, of course, I feel loneliness at Christmas too. But this quote really jump started my yearn to talk about this. So, it is a quote from E.B. White, and it says, "To perceive Christmas through its wrappings becomes more difficult with every year. For many, the wrappings are loneliness, silence, and memories that burn too brightly." Now, with many of the quotes that we use on the Notes and Quotes podcast, once again, this one is oh too true. I think with Christmas and with any celebrations, any holidays, because from, October to December is kind of really a holiday season. You've got, and I'm talking about strictly westernized holidays, but October, you've got Halloween, then you've got Thanksgiving, and then you've got Christmas, and all of these other micro celebrations that you might have throughout that period of time, And with this celebration season, this holiday season, it can be a very romanticized time where everything seems picture perfect, everything seems really joyous and happy and glamorized. And so you feel kind of guilty for not feeling the same emotions that are being shoved down your throat in a way. There's happy Christmas music, there's Christmas decorations and lights everywhere, there's people singing carols, and like consumerism is up and everything, and everyone is just really happy. And of course, the notion of Christmas is a time for people to feel connected and share love and get together and appreciate each other and that kind of thing. Same principle with holidays, American holidays like Thanksgiving. And even with things like Halloween, there's even a coming togetherness with that one as well. You come together with your family and your kids to do trick or treating and, share candy and that kind of thing. So with this season, there's a lot of that pressure, especially because you see everyone out shopping and you can see all the families together and all that stuff. So I think the loneliness feeling, before I even say that, there is a loneliness epidemic throughout the world. We all know that. There've been countless YouTube videos and studies and stuff to tell you that we are one of the loneliest generations of our time, especially with the advent of social media and how social media, ironically, has been making us feel more alone than ever. But that topic of conversation has been overdone. So even though you feel lonely throughout the entirety of the year, people feel loneliness all the time. I think at Christmas and during this holiday period, it is amplified in ways that are not the same to throughout the rest of the year. And I thought to myself, maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm only the one feeling this. So I decided, let me do some research. And just as I fared, I looked up what is the loneliest time of the year, and I looked through some studies. I promise it was not just the first thing that popped up on Google. um, I looked through some studies, and the loneliest time of the year is during winter in general, just the winter season. But the loneliest day of the year tends to be holidays, and in particular, Christmas. Are we surprised? No, not really. Because, like I said, there's all this pressure, all the wrappings of Christmas force us to feel like we should be connected and with our loved ones. And even though you might be with your loved ones, you might be with your family, and that's great, and you're experiencing Christmas with your family, that's wonderful, but you might feel, oh, but I don't have a significant other, and so I feel alone. You might have a significant other, but you're not spending time with your family. Or you might be spending time with your family and you have a significant other, but you don't feel like you have good friends or enough friends, or your friends are far away and you feel disconnected. There's so many reasons why people feel lonely, and it's an extremely hard thing to deal with. And then there's also that idea of being in a crowded room and still feeling more alone than ever. I think there are lots of people who might have all of those things. They've got family, they've got friends, they've got a significant other, but they still feel lonely and disconnected because you're constantly wondering to yourself, why do I feel so lonely? I have everything. I have everything that and everyone that I could ever really need in theory. Why do I still feel so alone? And maybe you don't have everything that you want, and that's what's making you feel alone. And you're seeing everyone else with all the things that they have and all the people in their life that seem so great, and you want that, and you're like, why don't I have that? Why am I alone? There's just all of these things that get brought up in our minds during Christmas or during the holidays that can make the holiday season really hard, a really, really hard time for people. And the first thing that I want people to know is that they are absolutely 100% without a doubt not alone, because yours truly deals with that all the time. Especially having moved to a completely new country. Yes, I'm with my wonderful family, but I'm far away from all of my friends and all of our wonderful traditions. I'm far away from everything that I've ever known. I'm no longer in a relationship. And so there's a lot of reasons why I can feel lonely. So you're not alone. But what I will say is, one thing I've realized with loneliness is that there is a lot of beauty in solitude, in being alone. You get to discover so many different things about yourself that you wouldn't be able to do if you are around someone else. Even if you're around somebody that makes you really comfortable and you feel loved with them, you don't get to really fully 100% experience yourself in the ways that you do when you appreciate being alone. And it's not so easy for everyone to just appreciate being alone, because being alone is hard, especially if you're not used to being alone, especially if you're not comfortable with being alone. And I think that is one of the things that we really need to get more comfortable with, because you should like being with yourself. Because if you don't like being with yourself, then how can you expect somebody else to like being with you? And when I think about this topic, I immediately, what comes to mind is the notion of extroverts, introverts, and ambiverts. I'm sure that most of you have heard of extroverts and introverts. For those of you who have not heard of ambiverts, ambiverts are what are known as kind of the midway point between extroverts and introverts. They're a little bit extroverted, but they're also a little bit introverted. They're kind of like half and half. I tend to think of myself as more of an introvert, but with ambivert tendencies, because I do really like being around people, and I'm good with being around people, but I also cherish, love, and adore being alone. Even if I feel lonely, I still love being alone. And the thing about embracing loneliness is it's a lot easier for introverts, of course, because they naturally like being alone. They like being in their own space. But when it comes to extroverts, I know it can be a lot harder to embrace that loneliness and then embrace that solitude because you crave being around people. By nature, it's what you want. And that's absolutely fine. You guys make the world way more exciting. And I love that about extroverts. In fact, I love primarily being friends with extroverts because they bring me out of my shell and they express adventure within me. But I know for them, it can be a lot harder to navigate being alone. So I feel like with a lot of extroverts, because they enjoy and get energy and feel fulfilled by being around people and having a lot of social interactions, they don't really take a lot of time to spend time with themselves and figure out what they truly like to do alone because it's just not in their nature to do so. And when an extrovert is forced to be alone, they can sink really quickly into loneliness and kind of dread that solitude. So, one of my tips for extroverts, and really for anybody who struggles with solitude, is to first change your mindset about solitude. Stop thinking about being alone and being in solitude as a negative thing. You have to stop thinking, oh, why am I alone? And start saying, I get to be alone. I can actually take this time to just relax and reflect and look within myself and be alone with myself instead of having to be around other people right now. This is such a blessing that I get to be alone right now. What should I do with this valuable time? And now this is a time for you to sit down and maybe have a conversation with yourself. What do I like to do? What are the things that I really enjoy doing? Maybe I like to read. I haven't really gotten a chance to read recently. Maybe this is a time I can do that. Maybe I can catch up on a favorite show that I have. Maybe I can look into some other hobbies and try some things and see what I actually like. Maybe I can plan for the future and set personal goals. Maybe I can reassess my life and learn things about myself. Use your alone time as a valuable asset that more than likely you won't have in the future. Because it's very highly unlikely that you will continue to be alone for the rest of your life. There's going to be a time where you're yearning for that solitude and aloneness that you have right now. So change your mindset and think, I get to be alone right now. I get to be private and in my own space. This is such a valuable thing that I don't take for granted. Now, what I will say is that there is a stark difference between being alone and feeling lonely. And we started off by talking about loneliness. So let's come back there. Let's go back around and talk about loneliness because there's a difference between embracing being alone and feeling lonely. Loneliness is a much heavier feeling than being alone. Loneliness is a true yearning for social interaction and for connection on a deeper level. Sometimes you can be surrounded by wonderful people, but you don't feel connected to them, and then you feel lonely. Loneliness is almost a yearning and a burning to feel seen and to feel like you are experiencing life with other people who are by your side and in your corner and with you. And too many people in our world don't feel like they have that. So how do we deal with that? Whew. Honestly, I won't lie to you. It's a hard one. It is. Just as hard as it feels to feel lonely, it is hard to get out of loneliness as well. But this is where it comes down to how willing are you to do the work to not be lonely? Because it's not like you can just snap your fingers and boom, I'm not lonely anymore. Because if that was the case, I mean, I'd be doing that right now, you know? But loneliness is not something that is easy to get out of. You have to take active steps to do so. What are those active steps? So, first off, before we can even give any practical steps, we need to first navigate why it is you feel lonely. Do you feel lonely because you're in a family that you don't feel connected to, you feel at odds with, and you don't feel seen within them? Okay, if that's the case, we need to find you some people that you can feel connected and more and relate to more and feel seen with, right? How do we do that? Why do you feel like you are not in a place where you can find people like that? How can we change the environment that you're in? For me, and this is just, I'm using myself as a case study, but obviously everyone else's situation is different. But if you can hear my situation and maybe take any, I don't know, practical steps from it, then that would mean the world to me. But of course, to each their own. I'm just one person. But for me, the source of my loneliness has come from the fact that I have had a lot of major life changes, right? I've moved countries. I've recently ended a very long term relationship, and I'm in a completely new place and left my previous job. That's big stuff. Big, big stuff. And this is also the first time I'm not in school and the first time in my life. So it's been a lot of big changes for me. And that has resulted in me being alone and having a lot of alone time. And that alone time has been great. But now we're feeling a little bit lonely, especially as a result of the holiday season. So the first thing that I did when I realized I was feeling a little bit lonely is I did exactly what I said before. I took an audit of my life and said to myself, why am I feeling like this? What is the source of it? And I realized, one, I miss my friends. I don't feel like I am in a place that is very easy for me to make friends because I live in the middle of nowhere. And the average demographic of people that are around me are over 65. And while they're wonderful people, I don't think that I would really be able to make friends with a lot of the people here. So I said, okay, I also don't know everyone that's around me. I'm only knowing what I see. So I went on some apps for making friends and I was dreading it. Oh my gosh. I thought it was like, ugh, I don't want to be one of those people that are on looking for friends online. Like, I just want to meet people organically. But sometimes to make changes in your life, you have to stop waiting for change to happen and take change actively and proactively. So that's what I did. And let me tell you, I have now met the most wonderful group of people who I'm actually hanging out with for a Friendsmas on Saturday. So it just goes to show that taking that uncomfortable step can actually be a surprisingly good thing in your life. And then I was like, okay, I have the friends. So what else is making me feel a bit lonely? I am constantly comparing my life to what it was before. And when it was before is I knew everything around about my context and my area because I lived there for 22 years and I knew everything. I was super comfortable where I was. And now I'm in a completely new place that's uncomfortable and I don't know everything. Let me stop looking at social media and comparing everything in my life to what it used to be and give where I am a chance. So I limited my social media time. And I know that's probably a bit of an obvious one, but it's a powerful one. One of the things that I would really deeply recommend is for people to do an audit of who they follow and who they engage with on social media. Because we have a tendency to just follow anyone that we know, right? We have a tendency to follow anyone that we think is cool, and that's fine. But a lot of times it means that you are getting content that is not really the best for you. So what I do every now and then is I go through my following and anyone at all that makes me feel even the slightest bit bad about myself, whether it's by body standards, whether it's by life comparisons, whether it's literally anything. I don't care who they are, I unfollow them. They could be a family member, they could be an old friend, they could be a current friend, they could be a celebrity, they could be a random influencer. I will unfollow them. And it doesn't mean I need to cut off the relationship completely, but it just means I don't need to be seeing your content that I know is making me feel bad every single day just because I have been following you and I like your content. I might like your content, but if it's not good for me, I'm not going to continue to follow you because I am prioritizing my mental well being, which is what you should always be doing at all times. Prioritize your mental well being above all else. And on that note, another proactive step that I took was okay, I am also feeling lonely because I have all of this time to just sit and wallow in this. For the first few months of me being here, I didn't really have much to do. Like, I kept myself busy with, walking around town and exploring, hanging out with family members, starting this podcast. But ultimately, I wasn't really getting out there. I wasn't meeting people. I wasn't interacting. I wasn't engaging. And so I was like, maybe I need to do that more. So I tried going to events here and there, minorly, because I'm, like I said, a bit of an introvert and it's hard for me to push myself out to different things. But then I was like, no, I need something more consistent. So I was like, okay, for many different reasons, along with this one, I need to get a job. And I know I want a job where I don't work remotely. I need to get out there and engage. So I now have gotten a job, snaps, that allows me to be in person and engage with different people. And I'm so incredibly happy about that. I'm loving it. And it has slowly, bit by bit by bit, been curing my loneliness. That's not to say that, hey, it's Christmas time and now I have friends, now I have a job, I have my wonderful family, I'm now engaging more in my environment. I still feel a bit lonely. Now, even though you might take proactive steps to not feel lonely, that's not going to completely cure your loneliness, because I think one of the ways that loneliness can be combated is twofold. One, taking those proactive steps that we talked about, but also two, doing the other thing we talked about and embracing and being okay with being alone. And that's what now I need to become a little bit more comfortable with. I thought I was comfortable with it before. I thought that I was that person that was like, no, I'm so great at being alone. I love being alone because I'm an introvert. Well, introvert slash ambivert. I can be alone. I'm so great at it. I love it. And that's so true. I could be alone for weeks, but I still realize that even when I'm alone, there's sometimes where I still feel really, 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 really lonely. And I want to not feel like that. And I realize it's because I still have this mentality in my mind, in the back of my mind, that your life isn't as great or your life doesn't have as much value if you are not sharing it with somebody else. And I think at the baseline, that's one of the reasons that so many people feel so alone, because they have this glamorized mentality in their life that they need to be sharing it with somebody else if they want their life to be perfect and if they want their life to be complete and fulfilled. And it's absolutely ridiculous, guys. Why can't we be happy with just being ourselves and being with ourselves? Why aren't we enough for a fulfilled life? Why do we need to have somebody else in our life to make it feel worthwhile? I don't think that that makes any form of sense. And that's why I'm here today to tell you, you need to become more okay with just being alone. Change your mindset to be thinking, I get to be alone. I don't have to be alone. I'm not burdened with being alone. I get to be alone. And I get to figure out more about myself and love myself more and figure out what I like to do. And maybe I can go try and actually proactively take steps to not feel lonely and get out there. Figure out what hobbies I like. Figure out what groups I can go join. Figure out who I can meet, even if it's by doing something cringy and nerve-wracking and scary. I can take this time to do an audit on my life and figure out what are the things that are making me feel crappy and how can I fix them, because they are fixable. Now, of course, like I said, guys, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not somebody who has any credentials to be giving you professional advice, but I am just your friend who is here to tell you that this can be a really tough time. It's Christmas Eve. It's the holiday season. Even New Year's is coming up, which makes you reflect a lot on your life. And I'm telling you, I know that that loneliness feeling can be such a burden. But one, you're not alone in this. And two, you don't have to feel like this. There are ways for you to feel better. And there are ways for you to embrace this and change your mindset to thinking that this is not a terrible thing, but it's actually a great and valuable thing to be alone. And you don't have to be lonely. And as always, I'm always here. I'm always here for you to shoot me a message. I'm always here for you to have a chat. You can contact me at any time. But with that, that is all I have for today, guys. I am so happy that you were able to take the time to sit and listen to me so I can share with you. And I hope that in some way this made you feel at least connected or seen or informed. One of them. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week, Tuesday. If you want more of the Notes and Quotes podcast, you can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at the Notes and Quotes podcast or Notes and Quotes pod. If you want more of me, you can check me out at Naomi A. Cambridge. And as always, I love you guys so, so much. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. And I can't wait to talk to you again. And if you want to keep up to date, I really recommend going to the Instagram primarily. But yeah. Anyway, that's all. That's all I have to say. Okay. Bye, guys. And of course, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you celebrate. Happy, happy, happy holidays, guys. All right. See you later. Bye.